I was born in India, up in the high mountains, which is a terrific part of the world. I went to a boarding school called the Martiniere College, which without doubt is the best school in the world, and I say that without reservation or any fear of contradiction. It really was, for all sorts of good reasons. I enjoyed my schooling immensely. I was a pretty good student. I also was very keen on sport and did very well throughout my school life. I had 9 months in school as a boarder, and therefore I had hundreds of friends and absolutely loved that. I went home for 3 months during the holidays, and I must say after 3 weeks I was ready to come back to school, because up in the mountains, yeah, it was terrific, the mountain life, but there weren't those numerous friends. So we went hiking, we went camping long before camping was known of. Just a blanket and a little bag in which you had a little bit of goodies to last you one day, after which you fended for yourself. We came across wild animals, and I mean wild, things like panthers and mountain Himalayan bears, deer, once in a blue moon, a tiger. So all of that was part of the growing up experience. I started school in 1956, so prior to that I was home with mom and dad in my primary education. And then for 6 glorious years, I was a student. And to this day, I have brilliant memories, and I'm proud to say, still have contact with 1 or 2 teachers. Sadly, most of them have passed away. But they were the guiding influence, brilliant role models, which is why I'm still competing today. The sports master was a gentleman called Mr. Hugh Dignam. He was very supportive of what I did or what we did, but he taught me a terrific lesson. I was running the 400 meters, and the school record had stood for 23 years. And I had run 380 meters in sub 40, the school record was 53, and I'd run it at that stage, 380 meters in about 48 seconds. And I stopped, turned around and told the guys in the race, come on fellas, catch up. And then I walked across the line. And once I'd crossed the line, Mr. Dignam played up merry hell with me. He says, you bloody idiot, you could have smashed that record. And typical of a young kid, you know, cocky and all that nonsense. And I said, sir, I'll do it next time. And he said, Noel, there may not be a next time. So whatever you do, give it your best shot, or don't bother. And that has stayed with me all of my life. I try and do the best I can, and in my own teaching life, I used to tell the kids, second best isn't good enough. Do the best you can, because that's perhaps the only opportunity you'll get. But may I throw in one other gentleman in this? His name is Mr. Brian Cook. He was a fabulous decathlete, and he used to train right next to where we lined up to go to sport. And I'd watch him every evening and I'd think, wow, I'd like to do that one day. So he was my role model. I thought if he can do it long after he's finished with his schooling, then maybe I could too. I'd broken a number of records, but the one that really mattered was a triple jump record, which I broke 3 feet 3 inches. I bettered the old record. And apparently at that time it was a world record. And Mr. Dignam said, Noel, if you keep going, you'll be a world beater. And when I'd done with school, I thought, well, maybe I can go and have a little jog here and a canter there. And I kept going, and here I am, at 76 years of age, still doing it, still have the passion for it, and I still think of those gentlemen and how inspirational they were. My mom said that I should get some qualifications behind me, and maybe I should take up teaching. She was a teacher too, just by the way. And it was a case of how can we afford it. But I was given a sports scholarship. So I did that, and I taught for a little while, a couple of years in India, and I thought, well, okay, so that's what I'm doing. And then I came to Australia, and the opportunity came up to teach, and I've been teaching ever since. 50 glorious years teaching in Australia. The Holy Cross kids, there were a great number who were, they made it to not only playing for clubs, but they also played rugby league for Australia. Guys like Benny Elias and Paul Sirenen, a young lad called Clark, and the Gale brothers, and so on. The Darren Clark, who was an athlete and a world-ranked athlete, he competed for Australia in the 400s. The same story with kids that I taught at King's. Not only were they terrific in athletics, they were also great rugby players or basketballers who achieved at a very high level. But then also there were the academics who have gone on to be doctors and professors of medicine, and the business people who've all done well. But the lovely thing is that when we meet, they don't have any need to strut their stuff. It's a lovely friendship now. And, you can't ask for more than that. I think that is just incredible. And it gives me terrific pleasure to think, wow, I can still interact, or they can choose to interact with me. And that is just such a buzz. I competed in the days when E.S. Marks Field was the place to go, and then Hensley Field, and then eventually Homebush, of course. But yes, I was competing. It was sort of off again, on again kind of thing. Because I was young, I was doing my degrees, I had a young family, full-time job, and I was also playing rugby. And for what it's worth, that's what really was my passion. I loved rugby then, and I love it now. But off and on, I competed, and I kept going. Then as a master's athlete, in those days, veterans, I did rather well in those years. Went off to the nationals, won on most occasions in the jumps. State titles too, won a great number of those, and then overseas won some world championship medals. So yeah, I kept going. It's not the medals, it's the sheer joy of competition, the terrific friendships you make, and the brilliant places that you see, which perhaps I would not have gone to. Again, I go back to my school years. I was told, get the technique right, and everything will be fine. Not only in athletics, but rugby, tackling properly, etc. All of those things. That has really stood me in good stead. Yes, we all have injuries. There are times when you're injured with a hamstring problem, or you've got a back problem, or whatever. Of course, that's part and parcel of sport. And I've had some injuries that have been fairly serious. But I've kept going, and here I am, still doing it. I had a heart attack, and I was told by the cardiologist, well, no, your fun in the sun is over. So I said to him, well, the first gold medal I get, I'll send it to you. And I did. I've been fortunate. I've had enthusiasm, the perseverance. And so yes, I am still doing it and hopefully going off to the World Champs in August this year in Sweden. My motivation is to do better the next time than I did the last time. Last year, I went to Cairns to compete in the Masters Games. At this competition, I did well, I won, but the next competition was the Australian Masters in Adelaide, and I won and did better again in the jumps in Adelaide than I did here in Cairns. In February, I went to Dunedin to compete in the New Zealand Masters Games. And once again, I did better in in fact, in all three jumps in Dunedin than I did in Cairns or in Adelaide. Jumped further and won not only in the jumps but also in the discus and javelin. So my motivation is to try and do better if I can. Of course, it doesn't always work, of course, but nonetheless, that's a good incentive. Past the competition, this is a camaraderie that's really important to me. Yeah, give it my best shot while I'm competing. But what happens after that is as important to me. I had the pleasure of knowing these guys on a totally different level. Victor Sanier, the world's greatest triple jumper. He won 3 gold and 1 silver at 4 consecutive Olympics. He won a number of world championships, I think 4 world championship medals, and lots of other medals along the way, European championships and so on. Had the pleasure of him being a friend, not just someone I said hi and bye to. He came to the house to have a meal with me on occasion. Keith O'Connor, who was also a famous world champion triple jumper, he too. The greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. I had the joy of meeting him and spending time with him, and then keeping a correspondence going for a period of years. What I would say is, don't stop moving. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing, running and jumping, not at all. But it will do you so much good to keep active. Go for a walk, swim, move around, do aqua aerobics, do light weights, something that keeps you moving. Get your balance, try and get your balance right, because all of that will stand you in really good stead. And along with that, if you can, eat the right foods rather than some of the junk food that we grab hold of often. And to crown all of that, the mindset. If you can have a positive mindset, it'll do you so much good in so many ways. And yeah, we don't always accomplish what we want to, but nonetheless, it doesn't hurt at all to try and do that to whatever extent. So my message to anyone, it doesn't matter what age you are, is keep active to some extent or whatever extent. Have a good attitude to life, and if you can, stay healthy.